Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Scientist, our basic study of Bhagavad Gita. We are on the 5th chapter and we are on the final phase, in the final verses of the 5th chapter. So in a way, Krishna has recommended in this section of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has emphasized on performing action. One has to perform action to achieve perfection. So we will start with the invocation and then we will discuss. I'll take a little recap also. So what we have discussed so far in this chapter. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavan Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagan Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Hare Krishna. So we have seen so far in this first 5 chapters what we have discussed, primarily from the 2nd chapter till the section that we have discussed so far in the 5th chapter. Krishna is very much recommending and emphasizing for Arjuna to perform the prescribed action. Krishna spoke to Arjuna and is emphasizing to perform the action which it is according to his social order, according to his varna and ashrama. And in this way, Krishna is recommending to all of us, karmane vadhikaraste, that everyone has the right, one has the birthright. What is the birthright? Is to perform his prescribed duty. And Krishna is also emphasizing not to be very much attached or influenced by the outcome or the result. And in the 3rd chapter, Krishna emphasized that how this prescribed duty has to be performed. It is to be performed in the process of sacrifice. And what does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means it has to be offered as an offering to the Supreme Lord. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. And in this way, one will be freed, one will be liberated from the actions and the reactions of what he has performed in this material world. Although living in this material world, performing activities with the body, still he will be free. And in the 4th chapter, Krishna has described about knowledge, how the action is to be performed, how action will come to the platform of sacrifice when one is situated in transcendental knowledge. And Krishna glorifies the transcendental knowledge He says that one who is situated in this transcendental knowledge, Gyan Agni Dagda Karmana Tamahu Panditam Buddha. One who is in full knowledge, all his endeavors are devoid for desires for sense gratification. And the sages say that such a person who is in perfect knowledge, his reactions of actions are burned by the fire of knowledge. So how to come to this stage of achieving perfection while performing action? So that Krishna says one has to become accomplished in the practice of devotional service. Very beautiful verse in the 4th chapter, that nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddhim. Samsiddhim is perfection. Yoga samsiddhi. Very important. What is the yoga samsiddhi? Is the performance of devotional service. So then one can enjoy this knowledge. So this knowledge which Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita cannot be attained by intellectual exercise or intellectual capability. This knowledge can only be attained by performing devotional service. By practicing devotional service, then one will naturally enjoy this knowledge. And in the end, in the 4th chapter, Krishna also glorified that one who is situated in this knowledge, who is yoga, for attaining this yoga samsiddhi, he also achieves, what is that samsiddhi? Yoga sannyasta. Yoga sannyasta means that he is renounced. So Krishna is glorifying both the knowledge and the renunciation. So Arjuna has still not become very clear that what it means to practice devotional service backed by knowledge and renunciation. So he raises this question that in the beginning of this 5th chapter, that which is better? Performing work in devotion or renunciation of work? This we have discussed. So briefly capping, so in the first 6 verses, Krishna speaks about the superiority of performing action, Nishkam Karma, which is higher than renunciation for one who is in the bodily consciousness. So for all of us, what is the samsiddhi? Samsiddhi is to perform devotional service. And while performing devotional service, we must know how to perform devotional service. So how to perform Nishkam Karma. That was from 7 to 12. How one remains within the body, but detached from body. And he performs actions from body, but he is still detached from the results or the fruits which he performs. So that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. So that is the section from 7 to 12. And then in the next section, 13 to 16, Krishna speaks about the 3 doers. The knowledge of the 3 doers, Jivatma, then Prakriti, and then Paramatma. The 3 doers. And the last section was the most formidable section that we discussed. This was from verse number 16, 17 till 26, which is liberation, achieving liberation by focusing on the super soul. So we discussed many aspects, and the most important aspect was that one who focuses on super soul, what is his quality? That he sees the super soul within everyone. His vision is a spiritual vision, transcendental vision. He is able to see the presence of super soul in everyone's heart. Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmani Gavi Hastine Suni Cheva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So he is Samadarshina. He is able to see the super soul. He does not differentiate on the basis of body, but he sees the oneness on the basis of the super soul. And such a person is Tirabuddhi Asammudha and is Brahmavid Brahmanostitha. So he is situated in transcendence by his true knowledge and he achieves transcendence. Then Krishna explains further what are his symptoms, what are his characteristics. And in the last couple of verses, we see that again and again, Krishna is speaking about one aspect very prominently. Anyone remembers? You see that in every last verse, in 24th, in 25th, and even 26th. That is there in all the three verses. We'll discuss 27 and 28. So just recapping to what we discussed. So Krishna is talking about which term or which platform is Krishna speaking about very prominently in all these verses? Any one of you? Krishna is talking about Brahma Nirvana. You see the 24th verse? Krishna is saying, Sa yogi Brahma Nirvana, Brahma Bhutadi Gacchati. Then 25th verse, he again begins with Lavante Brahma Nirvana. And 26, he says, Abhito Brahma Nirvana. So in all these verses, Krishna is talking about Brahma Nirvana, or that is the transcendental platform. So one is in the transcendental platform, liberation in the supreme by performing devotional service, being beyond matter, beyond body, and beyond one's mind. And what are the prominent features of one who is in Brahma Nirvana? He is always able to check the urges and the forces of Kama and Krodha. These are the two most formidable enemies of one who is trying to achieve spiritual perfection. Now, we saw that in the third chapter Krishna spoke. So very interestingly, how one is able to tolerate the urges of Kama and Krodha. It has such vega. It has such force, such potency. It is already answered in 24th and 25th. Anyone? How one is able to tolerate the forces of Kama and Krodha? In the 26th verse, Krishna says, Kama Krodha Vimuktana, completely free. Yatinam yat chetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. So how one is able to tolerate the urges, the forces of Kama and Krodha? Very interesting. And it is very enlightening. Both it is interesting and it is very enlightening. Also very spiritually entertaining. In the 24th verse, Krishna says, by his inner joy, by his internal happiness, antar sukha. So when one has a higher taste, when one has a superior goal, then he gives up the lower enticement or the attachments. So that is one. How he is able to check the forces of Kama and Krodha? Because internally he is experiencing greater pleasure, higher taste, like everyone tasted. The joy of devotion in Ayodhya recently, we had the opening of Lord Ram's grand temple. The entire nation has been submerged in the overwhelming wave of joy. Such joy was never experienced before. So a person who is on the spiritual platform, he experiences such joy unlimitedly, uninterruptedly. So then he is not affected by the modes of nature. So that is antar sukho. Yo antar sukho antararamas tatha antar jyotirevasa. Sa yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutadi gacchati. So he is not dragged by the urges of Kama and Krodha. This is one. And what is the second reason? Anyone? It is given here only. I mean, it is very, very inspiring. I was just reading these few verses again, and it struck me. What is the second reason? Second reason is in the 25th verse. Chinna dveda yatatmanam sarvabhuta hiterata. Because his goal is to give welfare to all others. He's sarvabhut hiterata. Because this is the goal, this is the objective. He is not affected by the forces of Kama and Krodha. So far, Krishna has given in this chapter how one can combine both knowledge and being situated in this transcendental knowledge which Krishna has given. When one performs action and he focuses on the super soul, not on the self, then he can achieve perfection. He can achieve the platform of transcendence, Brahma Nirvana. That was till 26th. And now we will take the 27th and the 28th verse. So Krishna gives a new topic. From 27th and 28th verse, Krishna introduces a newer topic. Let us see what topic Krishna introduces. You please, I hope you all have Bhagavad Gita. Most of you are our regular students. Hardly new students have joined. Never mind. Verse number 27th and 28th of the 5th chapter. Sparshan kritva bahirbhayam chakshurchevantare bhruvo pranapano samokritva nasabhyantaracharino yatendriya manobuddhir munirmoksha parayana vigaticha bhaya krodho yasada mukta evasa. So Krishna is giving this guideline to all of us that there is another way of achieving perfection or liberation. What is that? So Krishna is giving a preview to another yoga, which is beyond Karma Yoga, is the Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold mystic perfection. So the first item Krishna is saying is Sparshan Kritva Bahirbhayams, shutting out all external sense objects. Chakshur Stev Antare Bhavo, and keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows. So this is what one has to do. One has to seclude himself. And in that seclusion, in that solitary seclusion, he has to concentrate or meditate. So this is still external. Still external. And what he performs? He performs pranapana samokritva. He controls or balances his inhale and exhale. So this is still on the bodily platform. On the bodily platform, what we do? We do pranayam, exhaling and inhaling. We try to focus on the center of the bhruva, on the center of both the eyebrows, and shutting the senses with the sense objects. But in the next verse, in the 28th verse, Krishna is taking it even further, even deeper. He says, Yatendriya Mano Buddhi. This is subtle. First was gross in the 27th verse. 28th is more deeper, more subtle. So the yogi goes further, that his senses his mind and his intelligence. He tries to control the mind, munir moksha parayana, and vigatiksha bhaya krodha, and he's able to subdue and become free from vigat means to be free or to be above. What? Iksha, bhaya, and krodha. So such a practitioner, by the practice of this eightfold mystic yoga or the Ashtanga yoga, he goes beyond the desire, platform of desire. Bhaya is fear and krodha is anger. Ya sada mukta evasa. So such a practitioner or a performer is always liberated. So let us see the translation. Understood the verse? So Krishna is giving a preview now for how to achieve perfection or liberation. Sa ya sada mukta evasa. Through the Ashtanga Yoga, the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. So we will see after this chapter, the chapter will be on Ashtanga Yoga or the Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana is a component of Ashtanga. Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dhyan, Dharana, and Samadhi. So Krishna in this section is introducing another process of perfection through the eightfold mystic yoga. So let us see the translation. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breath within the nostrils. Please visualize what one has to do. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breath within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. How many of you feel can do it? What is easier? What is easier? The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in that state is certainly liberated. So Krishna is introducing this process. Let us see what Srila Prabhupada explains. Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity. What is the spiritual identity? That one belongs to Krishna. Simple. Our connection, our relationship is with Krishna. That is what it means to be Krishna conscious. That we are part and parcel of Supreme Lord Krishna. And then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. So that is the path which Krishna has explained. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position. Very important. How to come to the transcendental position? Prabhupada is revealing here that when one is well situated in devotional service. So let us discuss this point. What it means to be well situated in devotional service. One can come to the transcendental position. I seek your participation. What it means to be well situated in devotional service. Clear? So far it is clear? So what it means to be well situated in devotional service? That is a prerequisite to come to the transcendental platform. Go beyond the three modes or the material conditioning. Who will reply? What it means to be well situated in devotional service? Yes, Ramya?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, devotional service without any deviation.
Okay, very good. You can elaborate a little more so that it becomes more clearer.
What has been prescribed doing incessantly and without any deviation?
Okay, that means without any interruptions or without any intervals. Performing our duty, our service, uh, without any interruptions, or as she said, without any deviations. That means constantly. Like every day we eat without any interval, or we sleep. The very important aspect is one cannot come to the transcendental platform unless and until he performs devotional service incessantly. Very good word she used, Prabhupada's word, incessantly. There is no cessation. Can anyone give example where there is no cessation? One natural example of no cessation, which is incessant. In our ordinary living, we experience that, which is natural and it is incessant. Yes, Kanishwa? Ganesh, but your voice is not coming. Remove the earphone. Remove the mouthpiece. Speak. Can anyone hear what he spoke? Okay, there is some uh, connection problem. Anyone else? Very natural, which has no cessation. Yes, Sonika?
Prabhuji, breathing.
Very good. Simple. Breathing. If we stop breathing, we cannot exist. Can we exist without breathing? No, not possible. We can exist without eating for a day or so. We can exist without drinking, but we cannot exist without breathing. So when one is well situated means that he is able to perform his prescribed duty, his devotional service without any interval or interruption or deviation or distraction. So if one is situated in this level of practice, so he comes to the transcendental position. Prabhupada is saying, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. You might have heard, or you would have, you know, experienced all these people, all these key persons who were there in having this revolutionary temple opened, especially the person who crafted the DT, Arun Yogi Raj, even our Prime Minister Modi. What did he speak? You know, you remember what did he speak just after opening the DT? He gave a speech and he said something very, very remarkable. Why? Because he experienced this. What Srila Prabhupada is writing here. One comes to the transcendental position qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. You know what Mr. Modi said? That he is having the spiritual vibration within. He said that स्पंदन मुझे अभी भी हो रहा है. And what did Arun Yogi Raj said? Then when he went inside the Garbhagriha, when the deity was giving the first audience, he sat inside and he was meditating on the deity, which he did for 7 months. I shared with you. For 7 months, he was completely isolated from the entire world and just focus on how to perform his service. So when he sat inside and when he saw the deity, he said the deity is completely transformed. This is not my prepared deity. This deity is manifesting the transcendence which is beyond my purview. What he was experiencing? He was experiencing the transcendental platform. See, it is so clear. It is there. Opportunity is there for all of us, every one of us. Provided we focus and we give up the worldly interaction or distraction. So this particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. So very important. So in our practice as sadhana bhaktas, we should always have this aim or this objective in mind that our devotional service should be incessant. Our wake-up time should be, fixed, sthira buddhi. It cannot change. It cannot deviate. What it requires determination. And some of the devotees can share your experience. Would you like to share, Manoram? You were struggling for so many years, but what happened? You can share?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. So this is very right, Prabhuji. When we put our own mental contemplations, then it is not possible. But if we just follow Prabhuji the instructions, then it becomes easy. So I was not actually able to wake up in between. I was struggling. So, but gradually with your instruction, Prabhuji, I am trying to. I think since few past days, so it seems that it is becoming easy, Prabhuji, when I am getting prasadam also by your mercy and blessings. So
By
it is
Jagannath.
becoming easy, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Few days back, I told Jagannath Prabhu, Manoram Jagannath Prabhu, that if you really want to practice and progress, you have to take your sadhana very sincerely. And if you don't take your sadhana sincerely, then the struggle of your life continues. Then the karma will not leave you. How do we, show our sincerity to Krishna at our stage, at our level? Our Acharya says by our sadhana bhakti, as a sadhaka, as a practitioner. And he was having struggles and having prasad because you all know he lives far off in Cuttack. There is a lot of struggle in his personal life. He's facing such challenges. It is there with all of us. Sooner or later, material life will reveal its true nature. So he was not able to have prasad in time. The prasadam was after the class. And so eating was late and sleeping was late. So wake up was late. So I told him first thing is to leave the place where he is. You relocate, shift from there. Very important where we are living, with whom we are living. It gives a big impact. The influence of modes do not leave us. So he did a good decision. He left that place and he took a new place. And I told him that whatever may happen, you have to sleep by 10. And I told him that you please search, just write prasadam and write Cuttack. You will find something surely. The desire was there. And I prayed to the Lord also, to Lord Narasimha there. And within 2 days, he told me that he found a Lord Jagannath temple near to his place of residence. And believe me that Jagannath temple is exactly the replica of Lord Jagannath temple in Puri. Exactly the same style deities and the same style of prasadam. Of course, Cuttack is not far from Puri. It is near. And he said, prasadam, they are able to give us both the times, morning also, evening also. Oh, not ordinary prasad, that prasad which is offered to Lord Jagannath directly. So all the struggle, all the difficulty and all the challenge, it was overcome by one stroke of Lord Jagannath. So please don't, uh, allow the conditioning or the modes to overwhelm you. Like Pradeep Prabhu sleeps at 9:30. I am insistent on him. He must sleep at 9:30. Even 9:35 is a deviation. Why? Because if you are sleeping at 9:30, there is all possibility you will wake up before 4:30. Otherwise, you won't be able to wake up. The modes are going to catch you. The modes are going to again push you back into the same situation. That is what the conditioning is. And if you practice sincerely for, say, minimum 6 months, you will see it will become natural. It will become incessant. There will not be any difficulty. Why? Because you will be able to overcome the mode. This is what Prabhupada is explaining here. That when one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position. And when one comes to the transcendental position, one is qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the spheres of one's activity. This we must experience. Unless and until we come to this stage, our material attraction will not be dispelled. So how to break through this is to be well situated in devotional service or devotional practice. So after this is the process of liberation. Liberation from one's conditioning, from one's karma, from one's karmic reaction, from one's lower mode. Still there will be difficulties and challenges coming because we are living in the material world. But it will not be able to overwhelm us. It will not be able to drag us. It's very important that we should be well situated in our devotional service without fail. Our Ravindra Madhusudan Prabhu, Maharaj always says, Guru Maharaj, that on Sunday you should come to the temple and take association of devotees in temple. And immediately he told me that I am coming every Sunday without fail. And he's keeping his commitment. So this is called well situated in devotional service or devotional practice. If you take a vow that you will chant 16 rounds every day before 7, you do for some days and you see Krishna will help you in all ways. And it will become so easy. What 16 rounds? You'll say, what is so difficult in chanting 16 rounds? I want to chant 25 or 32. Why only 16? But as of now, 16 is such a big struggle. Why? Because the platform is not transcendental. The platform is still material. We're still struggling. So you see, if one is well situated in devotional service, he comes to the transcendental platform. And when he comes to the transcendental platform, he is qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the spheres of one's activity. After explaining the above principle, let's go forward. After explaining the above principle of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come out of that position by the practice of mystical or yoga known as the Ashtanga Yoga. So Krishna is giving a prelude or a preview to what he is going to present next in the 6th chapter, which is the Dhyana Yoga or the Ashtanga Yoga, which is a divisible into 8-fold procedure called Yam Niyam asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So Krishna is giving just an introduction as to how this yoga is to be practiced. In the sixth chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed. And at the end of the fifth, it is only preliminarily explained. So Krishna is giving a prelude. It is preliminary explained. One has to drive out the senses objects such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell by the pratyahar process in yoga. The senses has to become inert. You cannot hear. You cannot touch. You cannot see. You cannot taste or you cannot smell anything which will give you your senses the gratification for the sense objects. And then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows. And concentrate on the tip of the nose with the half closed lids. If you try to concentrate on the center of the eyebrows or the tip of the nose with half closed lid, what will happen? Our eyes will be fully closed. We'll go to sleep. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether. Prabhupada is giving extra. There is no benefit. Because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely. So it has to be half closed. And not just half closed. The center has to be the tip of the nose or the center of the eyelids. Now there is benefit in opening the eyes completely because then there is the hazard of being attracted to the sense objects. So the senses will not come into contact with the sense objects. So what you have to do? You have to keep your eyes half closed. As Prabhupada says in the purport, shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows. So this is first recommendation. Then further, the breathing movement is restrained within the nostril. Prana, apana samau kritva. Prana, apana samau kritva. Prana and apan, inhale and the exhale. The air which is going in and the air which is coming out. So what it has to be done? It has to be samau. Both have to be balanced. How one has to balance? Prabhupada is explaining here. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils. You understand? Just think about it. Not like what we are doing now, inhaling and exhaling, both. It has to be restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the up moving and down moving air within the body. Can anyone do that? Stop the inhaling and the exhaling? By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. We have seen, you heard about yogi, some very, very severe practitioners of this process. What is the name of that yogi who was meditating underwater for more than 10,000 years? And Bhaji, yes. Come again.
I think Guru Sabri Muni.
Shaubri Muni. Shaubri Muni. Yes. Shaubri Muni. Just imagine the extent of pranapana samakritva. Because when you are underwater, within water, below water, as soon as you breathe, what will happen? All the water will go with the nostrils inside your body. You cannot breathe. So what he did? Pranapana samokritva. He held his breath within the nostrils. And to what extent? Not for some 10 seconds or for 10 minutes or not even for 10 days. 10,000 years. Such control. What a level of control. It did not allow his breath for 10,000 years. But what happened? Little the eyes were open. A little more than what it should not be. And what he saw? He saw in that position of remaining underwater, he saw two fishes mating. And as soon as the senses came in touch with the sense object, his mind and his heart was agitated. And he came out. He gave up his austerity. He came out, a sage. A few days back, our finance head, devotee, who was sharing with me that you come to our temple, na? We have the pond, the Kaliya Krishna pond. In the beginning of temple, we have the Kaliya Krishna pond. So many visitors come, and what they do on the Kaliya Krishna pond, they offer coins. They offer the coins. So there are many coins which are in that pond. So the challenge is that if we have to take out the coins, we have to release all the water. A lot of water. Water is precious. We don't want to waste so much of water. And if we do not take out the coins, he was telling me that the coins, this coin is what? Is made of steel. And even in 10 rupee coin, there is some copper also. It is such hard made coins. He says what happens? That they get dissolved. The entire layer gets dissolved. So anything which is kept inside water, what happens? It gets dilapidated. So just imagine what would be the position of Saubri Muni, who was within water for 10,000 years. What would be the figure, what would be the emaciation of his body? And such a person comes out of water after 10,000 years. And what is he agitated by? He is agitated by this sex desire. And he goes and approaches the king, Mandhata. And he says, I want to marry your daughter, princess. And when the king sees the sage, he is outraged. What sage? Anyone who is within water for 10,000 years, what will be his body? He may be seeming to be a species of some other world. But the king was very wise. He said, I have no objection, but I cannot force any of my daughter to marry you. If any of my daughter chooses you to be her husband, then only I can marry her with you. I cannot force. So you all know the story. So what I am saying is that the senses, that is why Krishna has said in the second chapter, Yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipaschita. Manoram Prabhu, show the verse. Second chapter. And it's 68th verse. 2.60. That this is the nature. Why the senses are called as the serpents. You remember in the second chapter we read, Prabhupada compares the senses with the serpents. So yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipaschita indriyani pramadhini haranti prasabha mana. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind. Even of a man of discrimination. Purushascha vipaschita. Who has knowledge, who has the power of discrimination. But the forces of the senses are so strong that with his power of discrimination and knowledge, still he is not able to control them. And the prime example is Shaubhari Muni. Okay, you can stop the share. So which is easy? Devotional service. Why? Because in devotional service, the control is exhibited by the Supreme Lord. We see in the case of Namacharya Haridas Thakur. Even Maya Devi came herself, but she could not allure or entice. So very important one who is, why? Because he was incessant chanting. He was strongly situated in his devotional service. So it is very difficult. It was so difficult even in that age, in the age of Satya. What to speak of the age of Kali? To keep our senses away from all the sense objects. Then what one has to do? One has to go and sit in the Himalayas, in a cave, inside the cave, so that no sense object comes in contact with the sense. But if he carries a mobile phone, even if he goes to the Himalaya, the sense object will penetrate his mind. So this yoga process which Krishna is going to introduce here, because Krishna has given all the paths. Krishna has explained all the processes. Sometimes people come and argue with us कि अगर ये सही नहीं है तो भगवान ने यहाँ दिया क्यों है? ये तो सही है. But what about us? क्या हम सही हैं कि हम we can practice this? So the next para Prabhupada is saying, this yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of the super soul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. Prabhupada is summarizing that although Krishna is also giving this path, he is explaining this path, or he is giving this option, but Krishna consciousness is the easiest process. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagements. This is better way of controlling the senses than by the Ashtanga Yoga. We will take the final verse also. So Krishna gives the conclusion in the last verse. How to come to the platform of remaining always in transcendence in the liberated state. So Krishna gives the formula. Srila Prabhupada said this is the peace formula. The three-step peace formula. The three-step peace formula is Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Shruhidam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So what is the formula to come to everlasting peace and transcendence? The first thing is to accept that Krishna is the enjoyer. Bhokta Ram Jagatapasam. Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Yeah, and all charities. Tapasam. So Prabhupada says, a person in consciousness of me, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be his ultimate beneficiary. Ultimate beneficiary is, of course, the enjoyer of all sacrifices and all charities. So Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer of all sacrifice. That's why he's called Yagpati. Yagya word Vishnu. The purpose of performing Yagya.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी माता जी से प्रभु जी का जो है डाटा खत्म है, वो क्लास यहीं पे कंक्लूड के लिए बोले हैं। तो नेक्स्ट क्लास में ये वर्ष को कंप्लीट करेंगे। सो थैंक यू ऑल फॉर जॉइनिंग। यस गणेश प्रभु, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे?